Take a walk in Riga. Look around. Familiar faces. Faces that fit the city. This guy belongs here. That one was born here, probably. The other one, too. Maybe not. Maybe that girl looks like she went away and maybe came back. Listen to the way she talks. What do you think? Look at her shoes. Maybe some people went away and they are somehow still here. I mean, even the people that went away used to live here before and made this city look like it is now. Weirdly familiar. Take John, Irish. He came to Latvia almost by coincidence 15 years ago, and some of the local culture got to him so much that when he goes back to Ireland he suffers reverse culture shock. John was here in Riga, and now he talks to me from Valencia, Spain. But he still lives here in Riga. He works in Spain, remotely, that's all. Riga without him is not the same Riga prior to 15 years ago before he set foot in Latvia. We all make this city what it is now, by being currently here or going temporarily away. What's new though is that the virus is giving us a chance to be anywhere and nowhere, and work, and live, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, listening to John is always fun.
Famous recording in progress.
How you doing, sir?
Excellent, sir. Down in Spain with on a temporary break from Latvia. Yeah.
How interesting to get to talk to someone that is from Ireland, and that I met here in Riga when I moved here at work, and just how beautiful would it be to just get a bit of a uh, summary of what.
Oh, like a type of biography of
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
like 1 hour trailer that will get us
My
from.
goodness, my goodness. I think that would be one of the longest trailers in history. You know, if you did that, then the
Yeah.
cinema would never close. You know. Oh my goodness. See, I started teaching in Spain, and I was teaching in Spain for a couple of years,
Mhm.
and just out of the blue, I decided let's visit somewhere that I haven't been to before. And Latvia, just by pure chance, pure coincidence, came up as one of the flight options. I thought, yeah, why not? Let's do it. Go there only for 4 days.
Uh-huh.
And in the course of that, I met my beautiful girlfriend. Yeah.
There you
So
go.
we kept in contact. And I thought, well, teaching English in Spain, I can go up to Latvia, do it just as well up there. To Latvia, planning basically 1 year.
Mhm.
And 15, 16, maybe years later, I'm still part of the furniture up there. Let's say. So,
You're in Spain, so already this is a bit weird that we've been able to actually continue working. It's actually a beautiful thing, I would say, no? The fact that we
oh,
can.
it's been a great advantage. You know how it would go in Latvia if I was there now. I mean,
Yeah,
COVID aside, anyway,
yeah,
it's a bit colder. Beach season has long finished.
yeah.
Difference here is, I mean, I finish my work actually 1 hour earlier than I do in Latvia,
Mhm,
simply due to the time difference.
mhm.
And then it's still warm enough to go down and hit the beach
Beautiful.
and to swim as well.
What year was it when you got that coincidental?
Coincidental, that was 2005, which was, let's say, an interesting period in Latvia's history
Yeah.
because they had just joined the European Union the year before. Would have been a lot more problematic had I moved there, in 2003, because then you have to jump through a lot more visa hoops.
Mm-hmm.
See, that was a period of time, I think Latvians call it like the start of the fat years, when they had a huge property boom and, of course, later the bust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then was really interesting times. Prices when I first went there were cheap. They gradually started to go up like that. Suddenly you had these groups of people just wandering around, silly costumes, bothering local people in Riga Old Town. And it didn't go down too well as I.
So you would have arrived in Latvia 3 years before the crisis of 2008.
Yeah, it was 3 years before. I mean, then everything was great.
Mm-hmm.
Employment, because
Mm-hmm.
construction industry, there were stories then, people were getting 1,500 lads. We bought for 2005 for unskilled jobs in Latvia.
Mhm.
A lot of people going out and buying, expensive cars, etc.
Yeah.
A lot of it was being done on credit. So once that bubble burst, a lot of people were left high and dry. People who'd bought apartments for 80,000 lats suddenly found they had an apartment worth 30,000 lats.
You've seen a lot. You've seen 15 years, which is
Yeah,
really
15, 16 years.
in Latvia, when we met,
Yeah,
it's going way better than those days, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean they've got over that, but there is a bit of a property bubble now developing. It looks like, so we'll see exactly what happens with that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, and as a lot of Finns do, we're not going to end up in a similar cycle to 2008. But it's a thing, in history, there are these waves economically.
When you arrived, there was a time where you were particularly fascinated by Riga, right? Riga itself. You used to have a blog and you used to go around and explore.
I had the blog, yeah, and I went around I think there were 58 apkaimas, like districts of Riga. So I visited every single one. Yeah, and did a blog about it afterwards. Yeah,
we're both foreigners in a country that's not ours, but so clearly the interest and the passion for a new country is destined to change, not to get not to get worse, not to get, it's just changes, like we change. How has your relationship changed with the country, like more or less, John, like from in 15 years?
I would say in many ways, I've got more comfortable with it because I can understand the language better. I'm very familiar with the geography of it all. I know the local habits, some of them which irritated me at first, which will happen in every country. If you have a foreigner going to Ireland, they're going to say, "Oh, why do these Irish people do that?" But in the end, after you've been there for a while, you really get used to it. Like just little things like not even things that annoyed me, but things which were, "Oh, this is interesting." There was one occasion when, for example, I went to buy flowers. Valentine's Day, yeah. Traditional in Ireland, you will buy 12 flowers. But you try and do that in Latvia, they look at you as if you have a screw missing in your head.
Must be nuts.
Because you cannot buy an even number of flowers for a happy occasion. Even
number when you die.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
They thought you were wishing someone to die, right?
I really was.
The thing that you described as interesting gives us the adrenaline, so it keeps the interest high. The fact that we are aliens. No,
it does. I mean, and the actual thing is sometimes you fall into what's called reverse culture shock as well, because then you adopt these local customs and you go to other countries. And now, for example, I'm in Spain, and the world basically, you can divide the world a lot of ways, but one way is shoes in the house versus shoes not in the house. And automatically here, I had to bring my own slippers with me because it's actually alien to me now to walk around the house in outdoor shoes, and everyone finds this strange. But
they might think you're a shaman or some sort of weird a druid.
if they only knew,
But no, you're right. That's crazy. Like, how did you call it? Reverse culture shock.
It's called reverse culture shock. I mean, there's a lot of it. Just little minor things. I've been in lifts, elevators, as the Americans call them. And automatically I have pressed one because that's the bottom floor in Latvia. But I'm in the UK, for example, or in Spain, and one opens and I think, sugar. I need one floor below that. Yeah. 3 years here in Spain. Not only that, I spent a half year in Panama City in Panama. So that's
roughly
also Spanish speaking country, albeit let's say a developing country.
So what happens to John when he goes back to the Ireland of the Irish people that haven't left Ireland?
My home country, it's somewhat similar to when I first went to Latvia. There are things which now irritate me there, where I think, why can't they do these things the way the Latvians do them? Because I'm used to the Latvian way of doing things, and it's very strange. But that also
Yeah,
fits into the reverse culture shock thing, which I'm talking about. You know, patterns of speech or habits or just little minor things, but you think, oh, come on, guys, do you really have to do things this way?
yeah, and also it doesn't make you want to underestimate the fact that 15 years. So
Yeah.
the only way that you might have preserved more of your pre-Latvian ego, if you had learned the language in full, I would have been curious to see what would have happened to you, because 15 years of living in a country, then you get the language that carries the culture. You would have got a second citizenship or like some sort of like a double passport.
Probably could have, but I actually think it's impossible because, as far as I know, unless you have Latvian parents, you have to give up your existing nationality to get the Latvian nationality. Now, maybe that's changed, but certainly a couple of years ago, that was the situation. Basically, you have to renounce your existing citizenship.
So what are the benefits of getting the citizenship in Latvia?
Guess you can then apply for public sector, probably the same as Spain, actually. You can apply for public sector jobs. You can vote for the Saima elections, etc. I mean, as far as I know, how it would work is you can then apply for protected jobs, because in every country there are protected jobs which are only available to the local citizens. It's generally public sector jobs.
I see. Okay, fair enough. So it feels that we might be looking at the future and where maybe all this crazy stuff that is happening with the pandemic will have encouraged everyone to do more remote work one way or another. We might be looking at a future where you might want to spend a couple of months in Spain and work and just go back to Latvia in the...
I mean, honestly, certainly if I could do that, it would be something that would interest me a lot. I mean, take a couple of months outside Latvia, especially in the winter months, where you can go somewhere where, like here, I mean, was 25 degrees yesterday. No way you get 25 degrees in Latvia in the middle of October. Like, I came home earlier wearing t-shirt and shorts, and forget that in Latvia. I think there's one guy who does that in Latvia, and he's an advanced yoga practitioner.
Or maybe he's an English guy doing a stag party in Bethany.
Would not surprise me. Yeah.
Well,
he's 15 years too late for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, but what I wanted to ask you, like, well, I come from a hot country, like hot. I mean, hot in terms of temperature. But I'm new here compared to you in Latvia, because it's been almost 3 years. For you, it's 15. Were you more similar to me when you arrived? For example, one thing that I really like is a strong net division between seasons. I like the fact that every season looks almost like a caricature of a season.
Yeah. I mean, that is one thing, definitely. I mean, I'm not so big into this 4 seasons thing.
You always wear more for hot weather, even when you wear...
I mean, I can get the argument totally that an advantage of living in Latvia is that we have 4 seasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll even see it, you know, you walk around, I think there's restaurants called Chetragadi Laiki or something like that, 4 seasons.
Yeah. I mean, like, maybe the reason why I started appreciating it more is because of 8 years in London, where it felt like the season situation was a bit weird. And now I remember when I used to come to visit my family's girlfriend over here for 5 days to go before going back to London. It felt like I don't know how to say it. It really felt like leaving a shopping mall, London, to go to I don't know, into the wild. Already just going to Riga, already going to Riga felt like all of a sudden my smell was like kind of reactivated, whatever. I remember I could smell the wood in the street. I could smell...
Yes, yeah, you can.
I could smell black coffee, herring. Time is also different, the way that it flows in Latvia. Regardless you're busy or not, is a different thing. Compared to London. So all these things, they made me understand that you have to choose life. You cannot choose a shopping mall.
I lived in London, for example, for 2 years as well. And
Yeah.
you know how it works. It's just you are earning money, okay, but it's always a rush, or you don't really have so much time to yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
where I lived in London was the northwest part, so I was generally spending an hour and 20 minutes every day
Yeah.
commuting down into the center and then commuting back. That's 2 hours, 40 minutes per day.
Now you live in Lacale Forstad, Riga, which is center, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And also you're in a part of a center where it also feels like it's also a bit less busy than the other side. So we could call it that.
Moskotchka, as the locals call it. Where we live was historically more La Stadia. Yeah, La Stadia was like a little sub-district, but that's effectively been merged into, if I'm trying to explain where I live to people, it depends who I'm speaking with. If I want, for example, someone to come to my apartment, I live in Riga Center. If I want to sound hip and cool, then I live in Moskotchka,
It's an area that just needs to be developed a bit, but it's beautiful. I find it.
We see it will be, because now you've probably noticed if you walk through the center, they have the Rail Baltica project.
Yeah.
And that's definitely going to regenerate that area. That will generally push up property prices, among other things.
But it has the potential. My point is that before it becomes the new Mieriel, or before it becomes gentrified, whatever, it's got the potential. It looks nice. I like it. There's a
Yeah, and I mean, if you walk around that area, there is a ton of history. I mean, the Jewish community, for example, confessional groups, Catholics, Lutherans, Russian Orthodox.
I mean, like the other day, I took a walk close to the cemetery, close to the railroad, close to the central prison.
Yes.
And it was a bit dark, and the door was open. The door of the cemetery was open, and if you get lost over there, you will eventually find out also an Orthodox church in the cemetery. You hear people chanting.
Possibly an Orthodox church, yes.
Yeah, exactly. The Lutherans in the city are usually empty.
Yeah.
Usually. One area that we didn't get a chance to go there together though, which is Pardaugava, right? We particularly like.
Yes, of course. Oggenscones. And even if you go further up there, up to, there's the hill that, I forget, Degushkans, could it be?
Jeguskans, yeah, probably, yeah.
I think it is the highest point in Riga, yeah. The kvass factory's up there, yeah.
I was cycling one day and I could smell a strong, intense, and I felt like this is the thing about Riga.
It's good, you can go there. I recommend going there and getting a takeaway bottle of kvass from there. One thing I would actually definitely say about Riga, especially compared to 2005, 2006, and it is one thing that I like, is I can see just bit by bit, some of these districts are starting to develop a little bit more in a, let's say, cultural amenity sense. Because when I first went to Latvia, basically everything was concentrated in the old town and the center stroke new town. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But now if you go up to areas like Teka, etc., you'll find a lot more up there, cafes, small restaurants, local shops. And it's just made those areas a little bit more interesting, because prior to that, they would have been a little bit less interesting, let's say, to visit.
Yeah, I mean, like there's an amount of Art Nouveau, which is crazy how much they have.
One thing I've never ever had a problem with, 2005 or even later than that, was safety in Riga. I mean, never ever felt unsafe there. I mean, people generally don't bother you. At first, my current location, area behind the train station at the central market, that's a bit, a lot of homeless people, a lot of drunks. And at first there, I thought, I don't like this. But really, you walk past them, they don't bother you.
There is one thing that makes this city, or maybe post-Soviet countries, cities, less dangerous when you go to micro district. Something that looks like a micro district in Italy is usually for people that maybe had some troubles in their life, they can afford housings. And I'm not saying that they're all bad people, but pretty much the street is like a thermometer. The more you go further away, you will get in these projects that look like the micro districts in Riga.
Yep.
But you would get a crowd. People will go there and buy drugs. And
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
it's like in France, in Italy, probably in Spain is similar, I would say. But in Latvia, probably because of the fact that normal people would actually move there, because maybe there was a part of history where there were more people coming to live here. Probably the reason why this micro district are not considered dangerous, and they're not that dangerous, most of them, is because they were not there to host people at the margin of society.
Yeah.
So, whereas in my country, when you see something that looks maybe like Imanta, you're gonna think twice if you want to go there at night.
I mean, one of my students, she told me she opened her business in 1993, and she said she'd only been open a few days. Automatically, one guy walks in and said, "Oh, good place. Now you pay me."
Yeah, there was the Yumta, I believe. They extort money. They call it the roof, I believe.
She told me, in the 90s I had to pay roof, and I didn't get the connection because roof to me, I said, well, everyone has to pay for a roof over their head, but I didn't know it was a slang word for protection money. And she said she paid him, and they said, now you're under the protection of Mr. A. 2 days later, some guy working for Mr. B arrived and said, "Oh, good place. Now you pay me." She said, "No, sorry, I'm already paying Mr. A."
The organized crime wasn't that organized, but it was there.
Disorganized, organized.
Have you ever thought about enjoying at some point of any seasons countryside Latvian lifestyle?
The problem for me is I'm a city boy. So, I mean, I've tried, in the summer going down to the country house, yes. 2 days is enough for me, and no, it's not for me to stay there more.
I see.
I know it's more of a Latvian thing. They go down there. They can be down there for 1 month, for example, in the summer. But maybe it's my character. I get really, really bored in these rural places. 2 days, maybe 3 days maximum is enough. But very happy when I get back to the city.
Well, I mean, I haven't spent too long. There's something with the Latvian countryside which is somehow hypnotic because it's very calm and everything, and but it's beautiful. But the thing is, probably we are similar from this point of view. The fact that you're a city boy, maybe I'm less of a city boy, but I'm not accustomed to be in the countryside for very long.
Yeah.
But there is a point where somebody like me that stays there for long, all of a sudden, he imagines to be that person that can actually stay there for a very long time.
Okay. Yeah.
How I will have to change to do that. So I imagine you will have to be hard on yourself. You have to just get rid of the internet. It's such an extreme situation to be in if you want to spend a very long time in the countryside, because you're very much off grid. And I feel like maybe you want to start learning how to play chess before you start learning how to play checkers. In the sense that, let's get rid of the internet, or at least let's be very disciplined in the way that we use it. Yeah. Let's try and use maybe books, radio, a bit of TV if it's there, and start getting your ass outside the house and do some work outside the house. There is no way you're going to try and live or export a city life.
I've got to be honest, though, at the same time, this is one reason why I've enjoyed being here. The weather outside has just been perfect the whole time. So I have cut my internet use down to effectively work, and then about 30 minutes of private internet use every day.
You're going for walks, you're going out. As soon as
go for walks, we have a park nearby, go down to the beach.
You go for tapas, you come back.
Exactly.
Go for a cerveza.
Paella.
Nice.
I'm in the home of paella here, so.
I think hot weather and sun and speaks to everybody. Is a natural thing. It can be only partially down to how much you prefer that or not. I mean, it's just we need it. We need that.
But actually, this is one thing which came to me. If we are speaking about food, I guess that's one change I've noticed, certainly in the last few years in Riga. If you look back about 5 years ago, hardly anyone in Riga got takeaway food. And now you can barely move in Riga along these pavements without having to make way for some Bolt driver. Mildly annoys me from that point of view.
Mhm.
That, oh, if these guys cycling past me all the time. But from another perspective, I think it's actually pretty good because, let's be honest, getting takeaway food is a luxury.
Yeah.
If people can afford luxury items, it's a sign that the society is doing better economically.
With a lot of waiters in hospitality losing their job, many people just survive to
Yeah.
doing deliveries.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a country like south of Italy, apart from pizza being delivered or you going to go and collect it or whatever, we're not in the habit of doing other types of deliveries like restaurant food. We don't do that. We consider it for pizzas or maybe, I don't know, mostly pizza.
It's a completely recent thing. To Riga 5 years ago, you wouldn't have seen that.
Yeah, no, I believe you. I believe you. Also, maybe it has to do with the fact that people are probably less prone to mingle here, differently than no.
That's definitely true.
COVID aside.
Yeah.
In a Latin country, in a day you have to go through some situations where you are surrounded by strangers, and so maybe this aspect of life, it just makes. Apart from the pandemic, the idea of getting food in the house more comfortable in terms of we don't need to mingle.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general anyway, Latvia, probably the Nordic countries as well, they are much more individualistic societies. Because, you walk around Spain, you walk around like this district I'm staying in here, you'll see it not even just on a Friday and Saturday night, a lot of other nights.
Yeah.
Huge table, about 10, 12 people sitting at it, everyone chatting together. Very often people will just put in, like €10 into the middle of the table and they'll order a lot of food. That's just, you hardly ever see that in Latvia.
What about Ireland?
Not certainly in restaurants. Definitely in a bar. Yeah, you'll get that. You'll get it in a pub, like a group of 8 people, group of 10 people sitting, and someone will be buying rounds, or everyone put money into the center of the table. But not really for food. We don't have such a big food culture. Same as Latvia, meat and potatoes type of.
I would say, but like even you said like a culture that is very individualist. All of a sudden, when you use that word, it sounded extremely positive to me. The way that it sounded, because there are pros and cons with a Latin society that moves in flocks.
Yes,
and which is fun. But sometimes it's fun because you go there on holiday. Sometimes it can be too much. Like sometimes in Latvia, it can be too much, the fact that this doesn't happen. But at the end of the day, one is not necessarily better than the other. You go out, you don't get to see the groups necessarily. You get to see these people that are hovering around like one person. In Italy, when you go out, there are these groups that rotate like big wheels, and you have to get in it. There's a friend of yours has to like Freemasons has to tell you, well, I know this guy. Well, now I'm going to introduce you to this guy. You should be able to go out and just meet individuals. So I mean,
that does happen as well. Like very often, the end of the week on a Friday, I finish all my lessons. Sometimes, when there's not the pandemic, I'll go to one or other of these craft beer bars. Sit in my usual spot, write my notes, my diary on what happened in the week. There'll be someone else comes in just by himself as well, and I will know him. I'll shake his hand. We'll make a bit of conversation, but after that, I'll sit in my little corner. He'll sit in his. Another part of this city which has probably a decent amount of nightlife and bars and restaurants, and much, much cheaper than I'm paying in this tourist trap place. But you don't know where it is, and if you go searching for it, probably at least 4 times out of 5, you don't find this district. You end instead suspicious housing estate in some empty local bar with people looking at you. What the hell's he doing? It's not fun,
No, I get it, but also like we were clearly starting drinking a bit too early in those days because the Spanish movida was happening a bit later. Out of the excitement of being tourists, we would start drinking a bit early, and we were already dead by the time that the Spanish people were going out.
I'm based permanently in Latvia pretty much, but it's nice to get a month or two outside to go somewhere different.
Well, it's nice to put together work and tourism. So, like, I don't know, tourism is not the right word because you live in. But it's something that I would have never imagined it would have happened in my life 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
6
10 years ago, I couldn't have imagined
Right.
doing this, but it's been a real positive to do this.
We also have to appreciate the fact that there's zero commuting time now. So whatever we teach, we got more time for ourselves. We got more time to do this, to talk to each other.
Last night was Levante and Getafe in the Spanish top division.
Yeah, and was it?
If I'm totally honest, it was very boring and a waste of money. But
well, but
with entertainment events, with football or any sports event, you just never know how it will go.
How much did it cost?
42 euros.
42 euros. But you couldn't know. I mean, it makes sense.
You don't know.
You don't know.
I've paid before more than that and seen a fantastic game. I've paid before less than that and seen a fantastic game.
But I'll thank you for this chat.
Yep. Has been a pleasure speaking. Yeah. So we shall do again, I hope. Yeah.
Anytime you wanna say something you wanna talk about, let me know and we'll get
sing.
And I'll say sloncha to you. Ciao.